The Biden presidential Titanic campaign continues to ease its way into the water. That's when he's not lying and plagiarizing, which he's always done. And finally, some really helpful advice on the coronavirus from AOC. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. Okay, it's time to cover a couple things that are fairly serious when it comes to Joe Biden. Yes, we'll bring up the new Wuhan media virus briefly later on in the show, but let us focus and change the subject for once and talk about the Democrat nominee or the likely Democrat nominee. We all saw this video seen around the world yesterday of him cursing out and challenging to a fight a Rust Belt worker that he needs to win the election.
How you intend on getting the union vote when there's a large portion of the union workers that are gun enthusiasts, and you are actively trying to diminish your Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
You're for.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my sons hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were in Beto, when you said you're going to take our guns, that
I
means
did
what?
not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
It's a viral video.
It's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out that are
It
simply
was
a lie.
your voice. You said that you're taking the gun.
Well, he just clarified it.
Wait. Take your AR-14s.
Okay, this is not okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Hey, let's
Don't tell me
anything,
anything, pal.
There's a lot of guys.
So yeah, that was from yesterday. Now I want to play you a very short video. It's only about 10 seconds long. Later on that day, Joe Biden, after the whole world had seen the video of him pointing in somebody's face and cussing, he actually, I don't know if it was even in that part, talked about taking the guy outside, wants to fight him. So the whole world sees that video. Joe Biden's walking out of a place later on. He's walking towards a car, as you're about to see, and reporters surround him and they start asking him questions, and somebody asks him a question about that. One, I want you to listen to Joe Biden's completely nonsensical answer, but two, before anybody even gets to, asking him a question, I want you to watch the beginning of this video very, very carefully. Look at the look on Joe Biden's face. Look at how Joe Biden is walking. Look at this.
Right temperament with voters that you don't agree with, sir?
Vice President, on the coronavirus, are both targeting over this exchange this morning with the voter about guns. Any regrets about how you handled it?
Well, I'm surprised that Sanders is joining Trump. It's just surprising.
Was it appropriate to swear at an American, though, especially a union voter? Was it appropriate?
Thank you.
People, I don't know if you have experience with it. I do. I've seen that walk before. I've seen that look before, and I suspect many of you have seen that walk and look before. My goodness, if you're Joe Biden's wife, friends, other family members, you don't think maybe you should step in? You don't think maybe that guy should just go chill somewhere, get some care, relax, enjoy? Are you that committed to being in power? Are you that addicted to Washington power that you're going to put Joe Biden through this? People, it's early March. We have an election in November. And do you have any idea how many events, hands he's going to have to shake, debates, voters now yelling in his face he's going to have to endure between now and November? And now that everybody knows they can go viral on the internet by challenging Joe Biden personally, do you think that union worker's the last guy who's going to come at him? You're putting somebody, whatever he's going through, you're putting somebody who's not ready for it under tremendous stress. I mean, look, I can't stand Democrats. Everybody knows that. But I'm still a human being. I still don't think Joe Biden's the Antichrist. Don't we want something more for him? Doesn't he deserve something better from his friends and family at the end? But look at this montage.
Obama warned Biden's aides to make sure Biden didn't embarrass himself.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. I know Biden's bomb a Democrat. Tomorrow's Super Tuesday. 150 million people have been killed since 2007 when Bernie voted to exempt the gun manufacturers. This is my little sister, Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh, no, you switched on me. This is my wife. This is my sister. They switched on me. My other three granddaughters are down in Dubuque with my wife, Jill. And so, in Des Moines, I'm in Dubuque.
All right, Chuck, thank you very much. All right, it's Chris, but anyway.
Play the radio. Make sure make sure you have the record player on at night. Text Joe 23. Excuse me, I got to get this right. 1976, You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts.
November might as well be 10 million years away, and campaigns are stressful. Believe me, I lost 2 of them, and it was a little congressional race. He's running for president of the United States of America. Come on, people, come on. I understand you don't like the alternative, the old commie Bernie. I understand Bernie got cleared out yesterday in another, mini Super Tuesday. I get that. There's nobody else. There's nobody lucid. I mean, goodness, even MSNBC can see it.
There are growing concerns among Democrats, Corinne, in terms of whether he's up for this. As Joe and I was just saying, that the pace is only going to pick up. The campaign has largely, other than these debates, kept him out of a lot of big public moments in the public eye. Yeah. What are you hearing in terms of Democrats' concerns about whether Joe Biden's simply up for the job?
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that they don't know if he is going to be. This is the folks in my circle, right? The folks who are doing this behind the scenes and wondering, can he do it if he becomes a nominee and he's up against Donald Trump.
This was his opening statement.
Well, look, the next president of the United States is going to have to do 2 things. Defeat Donald Trump, that's number 1. And number 2, he's going to have to be able to go into states like Georgia and North Carolina and other places. One, that Donald Trump doesn't want me to be the nominee. That's pretty clear. He held up aid to make sure that while at the same time innocent people in the Donbass are getting killed by Russian soldiers. Secondly, I found out that Vladimir Putin doesn't want me to be president.
All right, so of course, Willie, he's struggling there. He's closing his eyes. He knows he's having trouble finding words. The sentences are jumbled. The words are jumbled. But I just wonder, is the media grading Joe Biden on a scale? Are we afraid to say that a lot of his sentences don't make sense, that he's having trouble completing thought?
That's MSNBC, people. You can't cover for him. And as I say that, they're trying to cover for him. You're going to hear, I'm about to read for you a statement from that Congressman Clyburn who endorsed Joe Biden. I'm about to play you a little clip from James Carville. And you're going to hear a consistent theme, not just with these 2 things, but you're going to hear this a lot going forward. They're going to try to protect him now, to protect him from the public eye. And you can't be president of the United States like that, people. Here's Clyburn, quote, I think when the night is over, Joe Biden will be the prohibitive favorite to win the Democratic nomination. And quite frankly, if the night ends the way it has begun, I think it is time for us to shut this primary down. It is time for us to cancel the rest of these debates because you don't do anything but get yourself in trouble if you continue in this contest when it's obvious the numbers will not shake out for you. Get yourself in trouble at the debate? Why would he be in trouble? The man wants to be commander-in-chief of the most powerful nation in the history of the world. He can't do a public debate? James Carville's on the same train.
According to 538, there's a 99-to-1 chance that Vice President Biden is going to be the nominee. Let's shut this puppy down and let's move on and worry about November. This thing is decided. There's no reason to keep it going, not even a day longer.
You're going to hear everybody start to echo this. They're going to want to bury him from the debates. They're going to want to hide him from public events. He didn't do any of the Sunday shows just a little while ago as he continues to struggle. And people, that's not going to work. You can't do the Weekend at Bernie's thing and hold him up the whole way and just wave his arms for him into the White House. It will not work that way, and the American people deserve better than that. Heck, I hesitate to say it, the Democratic Party deserves a better nominee than that. Actually, screw them. No, they don't. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. Joining me now, Congressman Chip Roy from Texas to break down, the actual important things that are happening in this country right now. Congressman, FISA reform. I feel like with all the Wuhan virus stuff and Joe Biden can't remember his name, that people aren't paying attention to really, really important things that are currently happening. What is happening with FISA reform?
Well, today the House of Representatives will be taking up a FISA reform bill, which is going to be presented as a bipartisan measure, and some of our good friends are going to support it. But I'm going to oppose it, and I'll get into why in just a second. But keep in mind that there are certain provisions from within the Patriot Act that are going to expire if we don't reauthorize them. And the business records, there's the lone wolf provision, there's some other provisions that would expire. Some of our friends would want to have a clean reauthorization. People like Lindsey Graham or Liz Cheney on the Republican side, some Democrats would want to have a clean reauthorization of this. I oppose that, and I oppose the current version that's been reformed because I don't think the reforms go strong enough. I believe that we have an inherent constitutional Fourth Amendment protection in our privacy and our records, and that we shouldn't have government being able to go through our records, even if they're being held by third parties, without having the basics of due process, right? And making sure they've got probable cause or reasonable suspicion to look at your records. Unfortunately, this bill has special protections in it for elected officials, for candidates for Congress and for president that the average citizen won't get. And unfortunately, few of my colleagues on the right are going to support it, even though it doesn't go far enough to protect our civil liberties. I think it is fundamentally important that we protect our civil liberties in this. I want to get bad guys as much as the next guy. You served in our armed forces, Jesse. I served as a federal prosecutor. We should get the bad guys, but you got to follow the Constitution. Because the only thing worse than bad guys and terrorists is a government that doesn't care about your liberties.
Congressman, I realize it's a broad question, but you're there. I realize you are a Texas guy, that you're definitely not one of the DC swamp creatures, but you now have to work there. I feel like they don't truly understand what's happening out here in the real world in America as far as respect for the rule of law and trust in the rule of law. Because I'll tell you, day after day, I hear from people all the time, they're losing faith in our institutions because of crap like you just said.
Well, no, I couldn't agree more. And in fact, we had a great meeting at lunch for a bunch of Republicans who agree with me that we shouldn't support this reformed FISA bill. They recognize that, look, we haven't even seen prosecutions for the misdeeds that have occurred at the Department of Justice. We haven't seen any action to take out some of the folks who've been abusing the process. And look, this bill, as reformed, despite the fact that some of our friends will support it, wouldn't change anything that happened with Carter Page. That's a problem. And it provides for politicians, not average voters, average citizens. I think that's wrong.
All right, moving on from that, because we have about 8 million things to unpack with you and only a few more minutes to do it. Iran. What is happening with this 9/11 Iran? I feel like this is another thing that the public doesn't understand what's happening. Explain it, please.
Well, today we're going to have a vote, or maybe tomorrow. I can't remember. It's today or tomorrow. We're going to have a vote, maybe today, I think, on a bill that's going to come over from the Senate that was sponsored by Democrat Tim Kaine, but was voted for and supported by 8 Republicans. That basically says that we shouldn't use the 9/11 authorization of force to perpetuate offensive action against Iran. Now, look, I believe Iran's been our enemy since 1979. I suspect you agree with me on that. However, we should vote as a Congress that if we're going to take offensive action, we should choose to do it, come together, vote, and say we're declaring war under the Constitution. We shouldn't use these lingering 18-year-old authorizations of force to continue to engage so that the War Caucus here in Washington can continue to perpetuate war, where we have 12,000 men and women in Afghanistan. We've had 70,000 injured, 7,000 killed, $7 trillion spent. And it is time to make sure that our men and women in uniform have a clear mission and the tools to carry it out and to care when they get home, but we don't let them linger. So I'm going to be voting for this measure. I will be in the minority of Republicans voting to do that, but there'll be a sizable block of us who recognize the need to be very clear about if we're going to go on offense in Iran, that we should vote to do it. One final point. The commander-in-chief, this one or another one, has the power under the Constitution to defend the United States. He can go on defense. He certainly can go take out a bad guy, even if it's in Iran, if we know they're about to commit some harm on the United States. None of us really disagree with that. So we ought to come together if we're going to be on offense in Iran.
Totally agree. I totally support you on that. Let me ask you, how did the war machine, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to sound like Ozzy Osbourne here, but how did, this commitment to the complete defense industry always having to be somewhere else? When did this begin? When did this begin so entrenched? Do people not realize that's not what we were founded on? We're actually the opposite of what we were founded on?
Well, I missed the very first part of that because of a transmission issue, but what are we not founded on? Say that again.
Invading everywhere, going everywhere, being everywhere all the time. We were supposed to just leave everybody alone.
Right. We had a very limited scope and belief when we founded our country about how active we should be engaged overseas. We should be defending the United States and our national security interests and that of our allies. Yes, there are some bad guys that we should deal with at times. And our men and women in uniform do a great job of doing that when we allow them, instead of turning them into a social engineering experiment or having them overseas building schools or creating soccer fields. We need to have men and women in uniform who kill people and blow things up when we need them to for our national security interests. It ought to be limited. It ought to be targeted. Our footprint ought to be minimal. And unfortunately, we've allowed the war caucus in this town to perpetuate continued war when we shouldn't be doing that extended. Again, 18 years into an authorization of force, there are boys and girls that are signing up at 18, men and women, who were not alive when we passed the authorization of force in September of 2001.
Gosh, that is sad. All right, finally, I'm not a doctor. I don't believe that you're a doctor, so it's not my job to diagnose somebody from afar. Is there chatter on Capitol Hill about Joe Biden and his missteps, to put it kindly, on the campaign trail? Are they talking about it? Is this something that people are aware of in D.C.?
Well, people are aware of the former vice president's misspeaking, shall we say. And, I'm not a doctor, but I stayed in the Holiday Inn Express last night, right? So I'm all good. But no, look, everybody's observing it. And you're kind of wondering what's going on. I think the voters see that. I think the voters will be able to speak and speak in November clearly about whether they want someone who's sharp and with it and leading and for the United States, or whether they're going to want somebody who's a sort of a safe pick for the Democrats. That they're going to try to say is their moderate candidate when he's no such thing. So we're going to let that speak for itself. But I think most people are pretty aware that these statements that he makes are kind of questionable at best.
Congressman, keep doing your thing back there. We're behind you 100%. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Jesse. God bless.
We got more me. Hang on. Well, Joe Biden has more problems than just his current issues, whatever happens to be going on upstairs. You see, long before Joe Biden forgot what he had for breakfast, Joe Biden is a serial liar, a serial plagiarizer. This isn't something new. Joe Biden has done, well, something that's amazing in politics. He's managed to lie so boldly and so often that even the Democratic American media will call him out on it, and has done so for decades. Joe Biden will just randomly make up things out of the blue that did not happen all the time. This is Joe Biden from 1988.
What law school did you attend, and where did you place in that class? And the other question is, could you quickly, I think
I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom two-thirds of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I won the International Moot Court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
What is it with these people, especially when it comes to verifiable things? It would be one thing if I stood here and I said, you know what? I woke up this morning and I went to my garage and I bench pressed 6,000 pounds. I mean, you're not going to believe me, but nobody can verify that, right? But we have your academic records, Joe. I mean, you can't. Well, I mean, I graduated with honors from Harvard and Yale and Stanford, all in the same semester. It's really amazing. Well, people are going to check on that. When he's not lying, he's plagiarizing.
Cannot measure the health of our children,
the health of our children,
the quality of our education,
the quality of their education,
the joy of their play,
or the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit.
What? What? But maybe my favorite of all time, this is probably one of my favorite political stories ever. This is seriously in the top 5, along with Elizabeth Warren's false DNA test. I mean, there are a lot of them in there. Well, actually, the top 5 would only mean there are 5 in there. Shut up, whatever, it's been a long day. But this is easily in my top 5, Joe Biden and Nelson Mandela.
I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island.
When I said arrested, I meant I was not able to move. Cops, Afrikaners would not let me go with them, made me stay where I was. I guess I wasn't arrested, I was stopped.
That's not, wait, that's not being arrested at all. That's just flat out lying. And look, this is what I mean before he even had all these horrible issues, this is what I meant when I've been telling you for so long that Joe Biden is not ready for prime time. This is part of the reason he's not ready for prime time. It's not just that he's a serial liar. He's a politician. They're all serial liars. It's that Joe Biden has been a senator from Delaware forever. And look, let's be honest, Delaware is not one of the major states that gets a bunch of media attention. And plus, he's a Democrat. So he's a Democrat in a state that doesn't get a lot of media attention. So he's been able to just tell these huge whoppers for so many years without ever really getting called out on it. Only now there's a problem. Now you're on the national stage, baby. Now you're running for president. Now the world is watching. Now this is the era of social media where everybody can dig up those old videos. He was never ready for prime time. He's getting less and less ready for prime time as we go on. And now they're stuck with him. Ponder that for a moment. They're stuck with Joe Biden. They ran out Bernie. They all joined forces to run Bernie Sanders out. Okay, woohoo, good job. Look, I didn't want the old commie in either. I'm happy about that. But you chose to unite the entire Democratic Party behind Joe Biden? It's not going to work. And the problem for them is it was never going to work. If I can see it, everybody and their brother should have been able to see it. I think it's an embarrassment. All right, we're not done yet. We got a lot for you. Hang on. Joining me now, one of my favorite guests out there, Jaco Booyens of the Falkirk Center and the CEO of After Eden Pictures. Jaco, I've got a professional basketball player and his actress wife traipsing along on the red carpet out there with their transgender 7-year-old. And man, I've got to tell you, I need someone to explain to me when we officially just made child abuse just not only the norm, we celebrate it now.
Look, first off, thanks for having me on. Always, you guys do amazing work. Love your energy. Look, we have lost our minds in this country. We have drifted so far from having a moral compass. You know, the family fabric is what America is all about. Everything we fight for in this country, our Constitution, everything that we fight for is about family and the family fabric. And when we start questioning, you know, and gender and putting these pressures on these young boys, it is child abuse. It's 100% child abuse. No child should be posted with the question of, are you a boy or are you a girl? And definitely not having a parent nudging that child in a particular direction, as we saw with the Smith family. That happened with, you know, Will Smith and his family, and now you're seeing it with Dwayne and some of these other celebrities, Celine Dion with a gender-neutral clothing line. It's insanity. I believe we're looking at a society that's looking for purpose, and they're playing house with their children. They're playing dolls.
Jaco, how did this happen so quickly? I guess I mean, look, if 5 years ago, I got in a bad car wreck and went into a coma, and I woke up today and I saw this, I would think that I had fast forwarded 2,000 years. I feel like it happened like this with the whole kids transgender thing. How did that happen so quick?
Man, I'm glad you're asking this question, and I want to give you a timeline of this thing. In the 1960s, we embraced sexual immorality in this country, and so that wheel started. It's like getting a train moving, right? It's slow at first. Then you start asking the question, what is marriage? Is marriage a man and a woman? Should we have prayer in schools? Then you start asking the question about how many genders are there? When we reach that point, it's over. You have crossed the precipice of the mountain. You're downhill skiing at this point. It will rapidly descend. This is why we're looking at what's happening in the late-term abortion movement, and now in the gender fluid movement, and now starting to ask 4-year-old boys, are you a boy or a girl? Are you sure? Starting planting those seeds. It's because it's been coming for a long time, Jesse. It feels quick, but it's been coming since the 60s. We're just paying for it now, but we've crossed the threshold, and now it's downhill skiing all the way.
Jaco, I understand this may be a dark answer. It may be depressing, but I want you to give me complete honesty. Can it be reversed? Can we change it? Or are we just, I mean, that's what we are now. Crazy.
No, God help us if we can't. I mean, yes, we can. There's always a way to redeem, right? But it comes back to men. Because also something I left out in that link is emasculating men, right? So somewhere in there, to get a society to do this, to get a society to embrace this kind of a thought pattern, right? You would have to have men believe that it's not okay to be a man. It's not okay to like manly things. Now, how someone wants to affiliate and live their lifestyle is one thing, but starting to ask questions about how many genders are there and should a man be allowed to be a man and poisoning guys with toxic masculinity and just by being a guy, you're evil. These are the mechanisms that's been used over time, though, to get us to this point where now you can just nudge. We're at the edge of the building. So, yes, I believe you can turn it around, but it's going to come back to the man, the individual saying, whoa, enough is enough, okay? I'm not going to apologize for being a man, nor should a woman apologize for being a woman, right? And I'm going to take some ownership back. I'm going to hold myself accountable as a father and not jump on this gravy train of popularity. Here's Dwayne, right? Here's an NBA superstar, Hall of Famer, no question, right? What does he need more? The man is so broken, he's so empty inside that he's literally using his son, his child, as a tool for attention. It's despicable.
It is despicable. And I'll tell you, believe me, I'm the furthest thing in the world from husband or father of the year, but I cannot imagine my 7-year-old being so mixed up that they even wanted to change their gender, for one, and two, if they did, that I wouldn't just sit down and talk to them. 7-year-olds change their minds in 5 minutes with a little guidance. When did we just hand over parenting to the insane leftists in this country?
Well, no. Now all of a sudden, a 7-year-old knows what's best for him. A 7-year-old knows what gender, he is or can choose and not choose. Next thing they're going to tell us, we need to have a president that's 16 years old. Like we see with Greta running around the world telling us how to treat the planet. It's insanity. But they want dysfunction. You got to understand, this is systematic and it's systemic. It's not like this just happened. It's a plan. It's a planned attack on the moral fiber and the fabric of what is America, what sets us apart from any other nation around the world, which is still small government, which the home, then local government, then state government. They don't want that. They want a dysfunctional, broken society so that one day, soon, they hope, government swoops in on the white horse and go, now you really need us because you're so messed up. I mean, having 7-year-olds make these decisions is insane. I'm one that believe, I don't know that 18-year-olds are even ready to vote because they don't even know what they're voting for, right? We have a very informed culture, right? But it's very shallow. It's shallow thinking. There's no deep thinking. There's no consequence in their lives. They don't think about the consequence of having a discussion with a son that's 7 years old. What's going to happen to this guy when he's 16, 17, 18, and he looks back and go, hey, Dad, I kind of didn't have a choice. You made me do this. Have they thought about that? Oh. What that's going to do to culture?
Jaco, now I admit fully that I'm a bit of an extremist when it comes to this. When it comes to government schools, I am anti any kind of government schools. If I had my way, I would completely eliminate the public school system. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what I believe.
Me too.
But then I see these stories like I see right now in Washington State, a bill that looks like it's going to be a go, where they're mandating sex education for kindergartners, man. And I have to tell you, it's not changing my mind on government schools.
And let me tell you why. Again, they want to talk to your child about sex because they're deathly afraid that you may just instill proper values, proper moral conduct, proper safe space with your child. But your child actually, again, believes that abstinence is actually an amazing tool. They don't want you to be talking to your child about that. Do you know that the CSE curriculum, the Comprehensive Sex Ed curriculum, funded 100% by Planned Parenthood, by the way, is taught in 29 states in the United States in public schools? This curriculum is for 10-year-old boys. In Chapter 7 of this curriculum, they ask a 10-year-old boy a question. This is how you corrupt a mind. You post questions. The question is, does anal sex hurt? This 10-year-old boy has never even thought of anal sex. Ever. Now, they plant that seed. Now, he goes and gets free porn on the internet, and they move him. It is a program to move culture so far left that we have radical dysfunction because they know this is going to result in dysfunction. There's no way they don't think that if you have a generation of 7-year-old boys that all of a sudden just are gender fluid, that they're not going to be dysfunctional when they're 21 years old. They're going to be highly dysfunctional, and then they're going to have to depend on what? Government.
Man. Jaco Booyens, cannot thank you enough, man. As always, Dynamite. We'll have you on again soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we got more. Hang on. Look, we've been keeping you updated on everything going on with the Wuhan media virus that originated in China. But look, the truth is we need to go to our elected representatives to really break down the real problem with this pandemic. So allow us to go to AOC.
Honestly, it sounds almost so silly to say, but there's a lot of restaurants that are feeling the pain of racism, where people are literally not patroning Chinese restaurants. They're not patroning Asian restaurants because of just straight up racism around the coronavirus. So,
okay, that's about all we need of that today. We'll do it again tomorrow. See ya.